us.
You're safe now. I'll stand with you both.
Edgewater Park, Cleveland. Nathan Cross, a man who powers cities, walks alone through lake-effect snow, minutes from a make-or-break vote. On a frozen bench, an 8-year-old shields a silent baby and whispers, "Take my truck. Just save my brother." Nathan wraps them close. Then he sees it, a bent brass subway token on a blue cord. Could this storm be bringing his past and his son back to him? Edgewater Park, Cleveland. The lake is iron gray, hurling whitecaps at the breakwater and driving a knife of wind along the shore. Nathan Cross walks the path in a custom-tailored navy suit, crisp white shirt, and a red tie that refuses to flap. Tall, muscular, broad-shouldered, a steady V-shaped frame. Deep blue eyes, dark brown hair streaked with elegant gray, side-swept. A strong jaw, thick brows, a warm, confident smile he rarely spends on himself. In less than 40 minutes, the council votes on his EV charging network and grid-scale batteries. Cameras will wait in the atrium. Donors will watch the stream. His company's future rides on a room of raised hands. He came to the lake because he needed a place that does not care. His phone hums. Amira Shah, general counsel, leaves a calm voice note. "We have the numbers if no one peels off. 10-minute prep when you arrive." Avoid off-the-cuff comments. He listens once, then again, and pockets the phone. Salt crunches under his soles. Snow dusts his hair at the temples, softening the gray he stopped hiding. The cold works through the fine cloth and finds the quiet that began when work outgrew friendship and admiration replaced intimacy. Last night, a board member clapped his shoulder and said, "You won." Nathan went home to a humming condo and 2 clean glasses that have not met a second set of hands in months. Loneliness is tidy. It never leaves the light on by mistake. At the Overlook, downtown glows behind blown snow. Tower clocks refuse the storm. He pictures the map he's carried for years, dots of light rising at libraries, clinics, grocery lots, union halls. A nurse can plug in at night. A line worker can charge before dawn. An apprentice can get to class when the bus is late. Infrastructure, he tells investors, is not hardware. It is the feeling that someone thought about you. The wind stiffens. He tucks his chin against his collar. A dorm hallway slides in with the cold. Elena Bennett, in a hoodie, eyebrow raised, daring him to make time he swore he did not have. He bent a brass subway token against a doorframe, a teenage oath that they would not lose each other in the rush. The token lives in a cedar box now, beside the first charger photo and a letter he never sent. The past is filed, not buried. Another hum, a text from Riley Cho, the investigator who vets vendors and rumors. Traffic barricades near City Hall. Expect delays. Nathan types thanks, erases it, sends received. He slows his breathing. This is how you steady a grid, he thinks. Small corrections, held long enough. A jogger passes, scarf high. A man chases a runaway grocery bag and laughs when he catches it. The city is 1,000 stubborn stories, and you change it by showing up when the wind makes staying hard. He turns toward the parking lot. Snow needles his face. He rehearses a line for the cameras, then lets it go. He tries another. "We build what lets people breathe easier, get to work, get home." The words feel true. They also sound like a note his mother would have written. "Try kindness, Nathan. It scales." On the far edge of the lot, a bench hunches under drifted snow. He catalogs the day's demands without looking. Council prep, council vote, questions about equity zones, a bank call about shorts. He checks the time. 35 minutes. The wind shifts. The lake's roar thins. A different quiet settles, wrong and faint, like a motor starved of oil. Near the bench, the snow is not a clean sweep. There is a shape in it that is not drift or bag. He almost tells himself it belongs to the storm. He does not. He stops. He listens. The shape does not move. He takes one step toward it. Then another. A snow needles his cheeks as Nathan steps closer to the bench. The shape resolves into a boy, maybe 8. His thin shoulders curled around a smaller bundle. The child's hoodie is stiff with frost, elbows torn. Beside him, wrapped in a threadbare blanket, a baby is still, lips faintly blue. Nathan kneels, breath catching in his chest. "Hey, buddy," he says softly. "Are you all right?" The boy looks up. Brown eyes wide but not surprised, like he's used to strangers looking down at him. His teeth chatter but his voice comes clear. "You can take it," he whispers, pushing forward a scuffed plastic fire truck, its paint flaking. "Just save my brother." The words land heavier than the snow. Nathan stares at the toy, then at the baby. This isn't a business deal. This isn't a negotiation. This is a life hanging by a thread. For a heartbeat, his CEO instincts rise, assess the risk, call an ambulance, delegate. But another instinct pushes harder, older, protect, act now. He shrugs off his overcoat and wraps it around both boys, lifting them against his chest. The baby stirs weakly, a whimper breaking the silence. The older boy presses his face against Nathan's shirt, whispering through trembling lips. "His name's Theo. He's 10 months. He's so cold." Nathan clutches them tighter, jaw set. The council vote, the lobbyists, the billion-dollar project, they all fade. There is only this storm, this bench, and these 2 children who should never have been left here. He hurries toward his SUV, snow crunching hard under polished shoes. As he pulls open the rear door, he catches a glimpse beneath the boy's collar, a flash of brass on a frayed blue cord. The storm howls. His pulse spikes. He doesn't have time to think about it now, but something about that bent token will not let go. Nathan fumbles with the rear seat heater, tucking the boys under his coat while the SUV growls to life. The baby whimpers again, a thin, broken sound. Nathan pulls off his gloves, rubbing the child's tiny hands, whispering, "Stay with me, little guy. Just stay with me." The older boy, Mason, he said, leans forward, pulling the blanket tighter around his brother. His neckline slips, and that's when Nathan sees it clearly. A bent, brass subway token, dull with age, hanging from a frayed blue cord. His breath leaves him in a rush. It can't be. He knows every scratch, every dent. The edge that caught against a dorm door frame in 1998 when Elena Bennett laughed at his clumsy attempt to impress her. They kept the tokens as a joke. 2 kids in love, carrying promises they didn't know how to keep. He bent his token that night, said it meant their story wouldn't be perfect, but it would be theirs. Elena wore hers on a blue cord, and now, 20 years later, this boy wears the same token, bent in the same place. Nathan's grip on the wheel tightens. His chest aches. He forces himself to look forward, not at Mason, not at the baby. But memories slam in anyway. Elena's hair in the cold wind of their first winter walk, her quiet courage when she told him she was applying to med school out of state, the letter she left when he chose work over following her. He swallows hard. "Where did you get that token, Mason?" His voice is low, careful, almost afraid of the answer. The boy shrugs, still rubbing his brother's hand. "It was my mom's. She wore it until she couldn't anymore. She said it was lucky." His eyes flicker uncertain, as if saying too much might take something away. Nathan stares at the road, heart pounding. Elena. He pushes the accelerator. Snow pelts the windshield, wipers fighting to keep up. He has to get them warm, has to buy time before the questions unravel him. Mason speaks again, so quietly Nathan almost misses it. "You kinda look like him, the guy in the picture." Nathan glances at him in the mirror. "What picture?" The boy's voice cracks, but he steadies it. Mom had one. A man in a hoodie, smiling, said he was her best friend once. Nathan's throat burns. He remembers that hoodie, faded gray, college crest cracked across the chest. He gave it to Elena one late night in the library, when she shivered under fluorescent lights. She teased him for being too serious. He teased her for not being serious enough. That smile, the one Mason saw in a photo, is the one he buried when ambition pulled him away. The baby lets out a weak cry, snapping Nathan back. He presses harder on the gas. "Hold on, Theo. Just a few more minutes." Mason curls tighter around his brother, eyes never leaving him. The fire truck rests forgotten on the seat, its chipped wheels digging into the leather. Nathan can't shake the feeling. This storm isn't random. It has dragged the past out of the dark, put it in his back seat, and asked him what he's willing to do now. And as the city lights rise ahead through the snow, he knows the answer will change everything. The diner hums with the low buzz of neon and the hiss of coffee pots that have seen better years. Frost still clings to the window panes, tracing white fingers against the glass. Nathan sits across from the boys in a corner booth, his coat draped around both of them like a borrowed shelter. Mason's small hands wrap around a steaming cup of cocoa, knuckles pale from the cold. He doesn't drink, just stares down at the swirl of steam while his other hand never leaves Theo's blanket. The baby has stopped whimpering, his chest rising in slow, fragile breaths. Nathan leans forward, speaking low so the waitress can't overhear. "Mason, where do you live? Who takes care of you?" The boy's lips tremble. He glances at Theo, then back to the cup. "We stay with Aunt Paula. When she's not mad, she's okay, but sometimes she locks the door when she drinks." His words tumble out in fragments, jagged pieces of a life no child should have to explain. Nathan feels his jaw tighten. He keeps his voice calm. "Where do you sleep when she locks the door?" "In the basement," Mason whispers. "It smells bad, but it's warmer than outside. I put Theo under blankets so he won't cry too loud. She doesn't like crying." Nathan swallows hard, fighting the burn rising in his throat. He nods, as if the boy has just told him something ordinary, though the weight of it crushes him inside. "What about your mom, Mason?" For the first time, Mason looks directly at him. His eyes are wet, but steady. "Mom, Elena got sick. She never woke up." The name hits Nathan like a hammer. He presses a hand flat on the table, grounding himself. Elena. Her name spoken by the son she raised alone. Mason pulls a small, battered box from his backpack, sliding it across the table. "She kept some stuff, said it was important." He lifts the lid with shaky fingers. Inside, under scraps of paper and an old hair ribbon, rests a photo. Elena smiling in that gray college hoodie, Nathan's arm around her shoulders. He looks younger, unguarded, the smile of a man who believed time was endless. Nathan can't breathe. The photo is proof of a life split in two, the man he was and the man who let her go. Mason studies him. "You're him, aren't you? The guy in the picture." His voice is fragile, but it doesn't shake. Nathan's hand hovers above the photo, trembling. He wants to deny it, to protect them from the truth until he can make sense of it, but the words fall anyway, quiet and raw. "Yes, Mason. That's me." The boy doesn't answer. He just holds Theo tighter, his small shoulders stiff. The silence stretches until the waitress drops off another cup of cocoa with a forced smile, oblivious to the storm breaking inside the booth. Nathan sits back, eyes burning, the truth pressing against his ribs. He hears Elena's laugh in memory, sees her eyes shining under dorm lights. He hears the promises he didn't keep. And now, her sons are sitting across from him in a diner at midnight, asking without words if he's willing to keep one now. The Cleveland skyline glows faintly through the snow as Nathan grips the wheel, the boys strapped in the back. The diner's warmth lingers only in memory. The weight of Mason's story presses harder with every passing block. He has built entire grids, stabilized power across states, yet nothing feels more urgent or more fragile than the two lives now in his care. At a red light, he calls Riley Cho. "I need everything on Elena Bennett," Nathan says, his voice low, clipped. "Death records, probate filings, next of kin. Track Paula Hart, criminal complaints, CPS involvement, neighbor statements. I want utility shutoffs, late bills, police calls. If there's a pattern, I want to see it." Riley doesn't ask why. He never does. "On it. I'll send updates within the hour." Nathan exhales, the frost from his breath fogging the cabin. His grip eases on the wheel, but only slightly. Next, he calls Amira Shah, his general counsel. She answers on the second ring, voice steady even at midnight. "Tell me this isn't about the vote tomorrow." "It isn't," Nathan says quickly. He glances at Mason in the mirror, eyes half closed, still clutching Theo's blanket. "I've got 2 kids. Elena's kids. One's an infant with possible hypothermia. The other, he's seen more than any 8-year-old should. I need family court prep tonight, emergency placement, guardianship options. Whatever it takes." Amira is quiet for a beat. Then, "Understood. I'll call a specialist. Focus on keeping them safe until we can file." The light turns green. Nathan drives toward the glowing sign of Cleveland Clinic Children's ER. Inside, fluorescent light and antiseptic air hit him immediately. Nurses hurry forward as soon as they see Theo's lips still edged with blue. "10-month-old, cold stress," one says, lifting the baby into waiting arms. Another gestures Mason toward triage. Nathan stays close, answering clipped questions. "No, not their legal guardian. Yes, emergency caretaker. Mother deceased. Aunt in custody, unfit. I'll provide contact and documentation." He watches as the nurses measure Theo's vitals, note bruises new and old, document everything with quiet efficiency. Mason sits stiffly on the gurney, eyes locked on his brother, refusing cocoa, refusing distraction. Nathan crouches beside him, voice low. "They're helping him, Mason. They'll make sure he's okay." The boy's lips tremble. "They don't always help. Sometimes people just look away." Nathan swallows. He can't argue. He's been guilty of looking away before, but not now, not again. Hours pass in fragments. Riley calls back with early findings. Probate records showing Elena died 2 years ago, cause listed as respiratory failure. Custody defaulted to Paula Hart, her sister. CPS complaints filed twice by neighbors citing screaming, locked doors, utilities cut off. Both cases dismissed for lack of evidence. Nathan closes his eyes, fists tight. System failures, blind spots. And in those blind spots, 2 children nearly froze in the snow. Amira texts. "Family court judge assigned. CPS officer Dana Ruiz will be your point of contact. Prep hearing likely within 72 hours. Nathan types back, "I'll be ready." Then he looks at Mason, hunched over, exhaustion finally pulling his eyelids down. The boy whispers before sleep takes him. "Don't let them take us back, please." Nathan rests a hand lightly on his shoulder. "I won't, Mason. Not tonight. Not tomorrow." But inside, guilt burns like ice. He left Elena behind once. He cannot leave her sons behind now. Morning filters through the ER blinds, a pale gray that softens nothing. Nathan sits in a molded plastic chair, his tie loosened, his eyes locked on the crib where Theo now sleeps, color returning to his cheeks. Mason curls in another chair nearby, clutching the scuffed fire truck like a lifeline. A nurse wheels in a cart. "We need to swab for emergency kinship testing," she explains gently. "It helps us determine placement until the court decides." Nathan nods, his throat dry. He watches as a Mason opens his mouth, obedient but wary. Then, as the nurse turns to him, he leans forward without hesitation, jaw tight as the swab brushes his cheek. When the nurse leaves, silence stretches. Nathan leans back, dragging a hand down his face. "Mason," he says quietly, "if I'd known about Elena, about you and Theo, I would have stayed." I wouldn't have left her alone. His voice breaks on the last word. The boy's eyes flicker open. He studies Nathan with the guardedness of a child who has learned not to hope too easily. She said once that you were busy building things, big things. She never got mad when she said it, just sad. Nathan's chest tightens. He wants to explain the late nights, the deals, the ambition that swallowed his 20s whole, but excuses won't warm the years Mason and Theo lost. He only nods, eyes burning. She deserved better from me. A doctor enters, clipboard in hand. We've stabilized Theo. Cold stress, early signs of neglect, but no permanent damage we can see yet. There are bruises, old and new. We've documented everything. He pauses, his gaze settling on Nathan. The rapid DNA screen is back. High probability paternal link to Mason. The words drop like stone into water, rippling through the sterile room. Nathan exhales shakily, staring at Mason. His son, his flesh and blood. Mason grips the fire truck tighter, as if bracing for rejection. So, it's true? His voice is so small, Nathan almost doesn't hear it. Nathan moves to the boy's side, kneeling eye level. Yes, Mason. It's true. You're my son. His voice cracks, raw with remorse. And I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me most. Mason doesn't answer. His eyes shine, but his face stays guarded, unreadable. He glances toward Theo, then back to Nathan, as though weighing every word against years of absence. The doctor leaves quietly, giving them space. Nathan reaches into his pocket, pulling out his phone, but not to check emails or stock tickers. He opens the camera and shows Mason a photo, an old one he's never deleted. Elena, grinning in the dorm hallway, the bent token glinting on her cord. Nathan's arm around her, both of them impossibly young. Mason studies it, lips trembling. He nods once, then looks away. She kept that picture too. Nathan presses a hand gently against Mason's shoulder. I can't change the past. But I can promise you this, I'm not going anywhere now. The boy doesn't speak, but he leans slightly into the touch, a silent concession. Nathan sits back, guilt heavy but resolve building. For the first time in years, his work feels small compared to what's in front of him. He has a company, a council vote, a billion-dollar project. But none of it matters if he fails here, again. He looks at the crib where Theo stirs softly, then at Mason, who finally drifts back to sleep against the chair. This is the truth he once outran, and it has caught him at last. The hospital room hums with quiet machines, the kind of rhythm that makes hours blur together. Nathan sits by the window, jacket draped over the chair, staring out at the gray sprawl of Cleveland buried in snow. Inside, Mason sleeps curled beside Theo's crib, his small hand dangling protectively over the rail. Nathan rubs his temples. He has built megaprojects that spanned states, convinced city councils to fund billion-dollar infrastructure, and stared down investors who doubted him. But midnight fevers? Nightmares? Burnt pancakes? He has no blueprint for this. He whispers to himself, almost like a confession. I don't know how to be what they need. The words hang in the sterile air. He thinks of Elena, her laugh in the library, the way she used to tilt her head when she caught him working too long. He remembers the night she asked him, plain and simple, if it ever came down to me or the project, which would you choose? He hadn't answered quickly enough. Maybe he hadn't answered at all, and that silence became its own answer. Now her absence presses on him like a weight he can't shift. He let her slip away under ambition's flood. And in the quiet hours since, he's built towers of steel and circuits to fill the void. But they don't hug back. They don't call him Dad. He looks at Mason again. The boy stirs, murmuring something in his sleep. Nathan leans closer, catching the whisper, "Don't let them lock the door." His chest tightens. What if Mason grows to resent him? What if he becomes just another man who promises safety and then disappears? He's seen children break under smaller disappointments. He fears breaking these boys without meaning to. His phone buzzes. Riley's message lights up the screen. More CPS complaints on Paula Hart. Dismissed twice. Utilities cut 3 times. Neighbors confirm neglect. Nathan exhales hard. The system already failed them. If he fails too, what's left? He flips to another message. Amira. Court hearing possible in 2 days. CPS officer Dana Ruiz wants an update. His thumb hovers over the keyboard, then stops. He can draft contracts in minutes, sculpt testimonies that sway lawmakers, but he doesn't know how to text reassurance to a boy sleeping 2 feet away. Nathan rises, pacing the room, his reflection ghosting in the window. Strong jaw, polished suit, controlled posture. On the outside, he is everything people admire, decisive, confident, untouchable. But inside, he is raw fear. He kneels beside Mason, brushing a stray lock of hair from the boy's forehead. His voice is low, steady despite the storm in his chest. You won't be alone, Mason. Not again. Not if I can help it. The boy doesn't wake, but his face softens, the tension in his brow easing slightly. Nathan sits back, exhaling slowly. Maybe he doesn't have the answers. Maybe he never will. But he knows one thing. Leaving is no longer an option. He takes out his phone again, typing a message to Amira. Tell CPS, I'll take them. Whatever the process, I'm not stepping back. His thumb hovers over send. Doubt whispers. What if you fail? What if you break them? What if love isn't enough? Then Mason sighs in his sleep, and Theo lets out a soft coo from the crib. Nathan presses send. The fluorescent lights buzz softly as the ER hall empties for the night. Nathan stands near the nurse's station with CPS officer Dana Ruiz, a woman in her 40s with a calm but piercing gaze. Her notepad is open, pen poised. You understand, she says carefully. Placement decisions can't be made lightly. Paula Hart is their legal guardian of record. Nathan's jaw tightens. He glances back at the room, where Mason sits on the edge of the bed, rocking Theo gently. The boy's eyes track Nathan's every move. He takes a breath. Officer Ruiz, if they go back to her, one night could kill them. You've seen the reports. You've seen the bruises. She nods slowly. And you're asking for emergency placement with you? Yes, Nathan answers firmly. His voice doesn't rise, but the steel in it is unmistakable. Until the hearing. Until the court decides. They're not going back to that basement. Not while I'm alive. The pediatrician on call, Dr. Singh, steps forward, flipping through a chart. I'll back that. The baby's vitals show clear neglect. Multiple injuries, inconsistent care. I'll testify if needed. Dana studies Nathan as if weighing more than words. Finally, she closes her notebook. Fine. Emergency placement granted until the hearing. But understand, this isn't permanent. Nathan exhales, a knot loosening in his chest. Permanent starts with tonight. By 5 a.m., the hospital discharges them with instructions, prescriptions, and paperwork thick enough to choke. Nathan, still in the same Navy suit now dusted with hospital lint, pushes a cart through an all-night supermarket. He moves quickly, decisive as if closing a merger. Formula, diapers, baby wipes, tiny fleece pajamas patterned with rockets. Mason walks beside him, silent, clutching his fire truck. At checkout, Nathan kneels to Mason's level, meeting his wary eyes. His voice drops low, steady, the kind of voice you use when you mean something you can never take back. You won't be alone tonight, or tomorrow, or the night after that. Mason's lips press tight, his eyes shining but skeptical. People say things, then they go. Nathan swallows hard. He reaches into his wallet, pulls out a photo, creased from years of keeping it close. Elena in the dorm hallway, smiling in the hoodie, token around her neck. I went once, he admits, voice raw. I'm not going again. Not from you. Not from Theo. The boy stares at the photo, his breath hitching. Slowly, he nods once as though filing the promise away. Back at Nathan's high-rise, snowflakes whirl around glass towers. The city below glitters faintly against the storm. Mason hesitates at the threshold, clutching Theo tighter, eyes flicking toward the elevator doors as if they might close on him forever. Nathan bends, palm open, voice gentle. This is home for tonight, Mason. No locked doors, no basements, just us. The boy studies him, then steps inside. And in that moment, for the first time in years, Nathan feels like he's walking into something bigger than any project he's ever built. Something measured not in megawatts, but in trust. Nathan's penthouse glows with city lights. Walls of glass framing Cleveland under snow. Inside, silence hangs heavy. Mason sits cross-legged on the couch, coat still on, refusing to set Theo down. His eyes dart toward every door as though they might slam shut at any moment. Nathan kneels beside him. You're safe here. Nobody's going to lock you in. Mason doesn't answer. He strokes Theo's hair, whispering something Nathan can't catch. Exhaustion presses on his small shoulders, but his eyes fight sleep. Hours pass. Nathan tries warm milk, a bedtime story, even soft music from his phone. Nothing works. Mason refuses to lie down. Finally, Nathan crosses to a low shelf in his bedroom. From a cedar box, he lifts something he hasn't touched in years. His bent brass subway token, strung on a faded leather cord. The dent catches the light, worn by time but unchanged in its imperfection. He carries it back, kneeling again. Mason, he says quietly, I want to show you something. The boy looks up, wary. Nathan holds out the token. I kept this since college. Your mom had one just like it. Mason hesitates, then pulls his own from under his collar. His hand trembles as he lays it next to Nathan's in the soft lamp glow. Side by side, the dents align like puzzle halves. The boy's breath hitches. His eyes widen. Filling with tears, he tries to blink away. Nathan whispers, They match, don't they? Two halves of the same story. For the first time, Mason exhales deeply, as if letting go of a weight. He sets the tokens together on the nightstand, cords hooked, their brass edges touching. They can watch us, he murmurs. Nathan feels something break open inside him. Not the polished confidence he wears at board meetings, but something raw, deeper. He pulls a blanket gently over Mason and Theo, his voice steady but thick. Then let them watch. Tonight, nobody's alone. Mason leans against him, finally closing his eyes. Theo stirs, whimpers, then settles again. Nathan sits there long after their breathing evens, staring at the tokens glinting side by side. For the first time in years, he doesn't think about the vote, the lobbyists, or the billion-dollar contracts. He thinks only of what he almost lost, and what, by some miracle, the storm returned to him. Morning spills into the penthouse, pale gold against glass walls. For the first time in years, Nathan wakes not to an alarm or a board alert, but to the sound of giggles. He stumbles into the kitchen, hair slightly mussed, red tie abandoned on the counter. Mason stands on a stool, batter splattered across the counter, clutching a spatula like a sword. Theo sits in a high chair smearing oatmeal on his cheeks. The smoke alarm chirps faintly from a pan of burned pancakes. Nathan laughs, a sound he barely recognizes as his own. Well, I guess we're not opening a diner anytime soon. Mason grins sheepishly. I was trying. Mom used to make them. They never burned. Nathan takes the spatula, flipping what's left of the batter into the pan with exaggerated care. Then I guess I need a teacher. The boy tilts his head, considering. Maybe. His voice softens. If you don't leave. Nathan's chest tightens. He kneels, meeting Mason's gaze. I won't. Not for this. Not for anything. His tone is firm, like a vow he carves into the morning. Later, in the living room, Mason sprawls with a book about planets, sounding out words. This part's boring, he mutters. Read it anyway, Nathan says, settling beside him. Sometimes the boring parts teach you the most. Mason rolls his eyes but keeps going. Nathan reads along, steady, letting his son's voice carry the words until he stumbles. Nathan picks up, calm and patient, filling the silence. When the chapter ends, Mason leans back with a sigh. He slips Nathan's red tie around his own neck, knotting it clumsily in the mirror. He whispers something so fragile Nathan almost doesn't catch it. "Dad?" The word hangs in the air, delicate, trembling like the first step onto ice. Nathan swallows hard. He meets Mason's eyes in the reflection, his voice steady, low, carrying all the weight of years lost. "Yes, son." Mason's lips curve into the faintest smile, small but real. Theo claps sticky hands from the high chair as though sealing the moment with applause. Nathan doesn't look away. For the first time, the word doesn't feel foreign. It feels like a beginning. By mid-morning, the city is buzzing louder than the snowplows. Nathan's phone won't stop vibrating across the counter, headlines lighting the screen one after another. EV CEO shelters 2 boys. Amid CPS probe. Token of the past. Mysterious connection between Nathan Cross and orphaned brothers. Mason watches from the couch, clutching his fire truck, eyes wide at the sight of Nathan's face on the muted news. Theo babbles beside him, oblivious. Amira calls, her tone brisk. "It's out. Someone at the hospital leaked it. Council members are already circling. One in particular, Councilman Drake," Nathan interrupts, jaw tight. "Fuel lobby's favorite mouthpiece." "Exactly. He's pushing to delay or revoke tomorrow's permit vote, saying you staged this as a PR stunt." Nathan exhales slowly, gaze fixed on Mason. "Saving my sons is not a stunt." Amira's voice softens. "I know, but perception matters. Short sellers are already driving your stock down. Reporters want a statement. Do you want to get ahead of it?" Nathan hesitates. His instinct is control. Draft the perfect line, calm the market, protect the vote. But Mason's small voice cuts through. "They think you're lying?" Nathan lowers the phone, meeting his son's eyes. "Some people will always think what pays them best, Mason. But the truth, our truth, doesn't change." The boy studies him, then nods slowly, though fear lingers in his gaze. Nathan lifts the phone again. "No press conference, not yet. Tomorrow, I'll face the council and the court. One room hears about the project, the other hears about my family. They'll both get the truth." Silence follows. Then Amira says quietly, "Then you'd better be ready for both fires at once." That night, Nathan tucks Mason into bed. The boy's eyes dart toward the TV, muted in the corner, still flashing headlines. "What if they make you give us back?" Mason whispers. Nathan sits on the edge of the bed, hand on his son's shoulder. "Tomorrow, we fight for what's ours. Nobody decides that but us." Mason bites his lip. "You mean family?" Nathan nods. "Family." Outside, cameras flash from the street below. Inside, Nathan stays until Mason's eyes finally close, the fire truck tucked beside him like a shield. Morning breaks sharp and cold, Cleveland's streets buried under lake-effect snow. Nathan stands before a bank of microphones in City Hall, the council chamber heavy with cameras and restless energy. His navy suit is pressed, his red tie straight, but his eyes betray sleepless hours. Councilman Drake leans back, smirking. "Mr. Cross, before we vote on your so-called clean grid project, the public deserves to know if this—" He waves a tabloid headline, "EV CEO rescues 2 boys amid CPS drama," is a heartfelt act or a PR stunt to sway sympathy. Gasps ripple. Nathan's jaw clenches, but he doesn't rise to the bait. He breathes, then leans into the microphone. "Last night, I didn't rescue a headline. I rescued my sons." The words still his own doubts as he says them aloud. And if you think sheltering children is a strategy, you've forgotten what leadership means. Murmurs stir. Drake opens his mouth again, but Nathan presses forward. He lays a folder on the table. Today, I announce the Starlight Grid Fund, dedicated to legal aid, emergency housing, trauma-informed care, and job pipelines for kinship caregivers and at-risk boys across this city. Every charger we install, every battery we deploy, a portion funds real people, real homes, real futures. Audited, transparent, permanent. He clicks a remote. On the screen behind him, statistics flash. CPS backlog, foster placements, youth homelessness rates, job loss from unstable guardianship. Numbers that are no longer faceless. This isn't charity, it's infrastructure, because families are infrastructure. When a boy has a safe home, he gets to school on time. When a grandmother has legal aid, her light bill is paid. When caregivers are supported, communities thrive. The grid we're building isn't just electric, it's human. The room shifts. Even hardened council members lean forward. Drake scoffs, but it rings hollow. Nice speech. But your fund doesn't erase the conflict of interest. How do we know this isn't cover? Nathan steadies his gaze. Because I didn't start this fund to cover myself. I started it so the next Mason, the next Theo, doesn't end up on a frozen bench at midnight. This city deserves power that doesn't just light homes, it keeps families together. The chamber quiets. Cameras flash. Reporters scribble furiously. Nathan gathers his papers, steps back, and without another word leaves the podium. His path isn't to win every argument. It's to keep showing up, again and again, until the lights stay on, not just in the grid, but in the lives of those who almost slipped into darkness. The family court is hushed, except for the shuffle of papers and the low whir of a ceiling fan. Nathan sits at the petitioner's table, hands folded tight, heart pounding harder than at any board vote he's ever faced. Across the aisle, Paula Hart slouches in her chair, eyes glassy, lips twisted in defiance. Riley Cho steps forward first, laying photographs on the judge's desk. Images of the padlocked basement door, unpaid utility bills, neighbors' sworn statements about nights filled with crying. The judge's face hardens. Then, CPS officer Dana Ruiz submits medical notes. Bruises, old and fresh. Theo's cold stress, Mason's malnourishment. The silence in the courtroom deepens. Finally, it's Mason's turn. He walks to the witness stand, clutching his fire truck, knuckles white. His voice is soft, but it carries. Sometimes. Aunt Paula locked the door. I had to keep Theo quiet, even when he cried. I told him stories so he wouldn't be scared. His throat tightens, but he lifts his chin bravely. Mr. Cross. He didn't lock the door. He stayed. Nathan swallows against the lump in his throat. The judge looks down over his glasses, voice grave but firm. Effective immediately, full guardianship is granted to Nathan Cross. Paula Hart is barred from any contact with the children. His gavel falls. The air rushes out of Nathan's chest. He turns to Mason, arms open. The boy runs into them, clinging tight, face pressed into Nathan's chest. For the first time, the word doesn't tremble when Mason whispers it. Dad. That night, back in the penthouse, warmth fills every corner. Mason pads across the living room, holding out his most precious thing, the scuffed plastic fire truck. He places it solemnly in Nathan's hands. You already saved us, so this is yours now. Nathan crouches, eyes wet. He presses the toy back into Mason's palms, then hands him something else, a gleaming silver token on a new chain, engraved with their initials and 2 words etched deep, We Stay. Mason stares, lips parting in awe. He hooks it beside the bent brass token on the nightstand. Now they can watch us both. Nathan pulls him close. Exactly. Later, at the youth center, Nathan announces the launch of the Staying Dads Circle, a peer program for men raising children alone, a place where no boy has to wonder if someone will show up tomorrow. Mason stands beside him, token around his neck, eyes bright. For the first time in years, Nathan isn't just building chargers or grids. He's building a family, and a promise strong enough to outlast the storm. Spring settles gently over Cleveland, the lake no longer frozen but alive with ripples of light. Along downtown streets, chargers hum softly, glowing blue in the library lots, clinic parking bays, and grocery store corners. Each one bears a small plaque, powered by the Starlight Grid Fund, a quiet reminder that infrastructure can be built with more than steel and wire. Nathan's calendar looks different now. Fewer flights, fewer investor dinners, more mornings that start with pancakes, sometimes burned, sometimes perfect. On the sidewalk near Edgewater Park, Mason races ahead on a scooter, laughter spilling behind him. Theo toddles after, unsteady but determined, his tiny hands reaching for balance in the air. Nathan follows, a steady shadow, hands ready to catch. "Careful, Mason," he calls, but his tone carries no command, just pride. The boy skids to a stop, grinning, his silver token bouncing against his chest. He lifts it high. "Dad, look, they stay together." The bent brass token glints beside the new one, two halves bound by history, now joined by choice. Nathan kneels, ruffling Mason's hair. "That's the point, son. They stay." Back home, the penthouse feels less like a monument and more like a home. Toys scatter across polished floors. Theo babbles at the windows, leaving handprints on the glass. Mason sprawls at the kitchen island, sketching rocket ships and grids of lights on scrap paper. Nathan pours 2 mugs of cocoa, sliding one to his son. "Think we can build a charger shaped like a rocket?" Mason grins. "Only if you let me help." Nathan laughs, clinking his mug against Mason's. "Deal." As night falls, the city lights flicker on, brighter than before, powered by a grid built not just to move cars but to carry people forward. Nathan lingers by the window, watching his sons chase each other across the living room. His jaw relaxes, his shoulders ease. He still builds infrastructure, only now it begins at the breakfast table, with promises kept and doors left open. Success, he realizes, isn't the empire outside. It's the voices inside calling him back again tomorrow.